Knives are cool. And axes too. Oh, that sun feels so good here in Florida. Hello everybody, Robert Breaker here with you, and I have another knife to show you today. I've shown you a bunch so far, but we have not touched the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot of knives to get into, and I'm starting out slow, lower end. I'm gonna get better, I promise. So stick with us in this channel as we get into some nicer knives. But I showed you all this one. This was my carry knife when I was young, and we talked about it. And I showed you a couple other carry knives as well. Today I'm going to talk about the one carry knife that I haven't showed you yet, that was the knife that I carried in college. So I showed you the knife that I carried in high school, then I showed you the knife that I carried later, but this is the one kind of the in-between carry knife that I had. So come on in a little bit. Let me pull these out real quick and remind you. So we have, all these were knives that I used as my carry knife. And this one, of course, the old timer, was the small one. Then we have the Benchmade. Then we have this really cool Cold Steel. But then there's this one. And this knife that I'm going to talk about today is a pretty cheap knife. It is not exactly the coolest of all knives. But no doubt you're probably familiar with it, okay? And I bet that you have seen this knife before. If you've gone to Wally World, we call that Walmart, if you have gone to a hardware store, if you have gone to a sporting goods store, you would have seen this. You say, that's nothing special. No, it's not. It's plastic and metal. But this thing used to be under $20, and you could pick this up anywhere. This is your Schrade CH8. And this one is missing the clip. It used to have a belt clip that you could clip it onto your belt loop, which was nice. And this one's actually missing the clip to put it inside your pocket. But I must have bought 20 of these over the years. Every time I'd see them, if they were on sale, they were under 20 bucks, I'd pick one up. And I would give it away to my friends. While I was in Bible school, I went to Bible school and graduated from there. A lot of the guys I went to Bible school with, they didn't have knives. So I was always giving my knives away, and I gave this away so many times to so many people. And you say, well, why is a cheap little CH8 your favorite knife? Well, let me show you. Go stand over there. When I was getting into knives, like I said, the first one was always a two-hander. You got to get it out, got to use two hands. And I saw this knife one day, and I said, the only thing I like about this, even though I thought it was kind of cool at the time, but it's just plastic, I like the fact that it was a one-hander. And I was always needing to hold something with one hand and cut, so I would always pull this out, and watch how you can do this with one hand. Pull it out, do what you need to do, and then one hand, put it back. Out, one hand, do it, put it back, and I got to be really fast with that. So I got to be able to do it really quick. And that's what I liked about it. It's a cheap little knife, but it's a knife that I could do quickly. So come on in here. I don't know if there's any other knife reviews on YouTube for a CH8 Schrade, little cheapie, but come on over here and let's look at this. The reason that I liked this knife, like I said, was the simplicity of it. I like the simplicity of this checkering. Really feels good in your hand. I like the simplicity of the plastic. I really liked having that security of that belt loop. Now again, this one's missing the belt loop, unfortunately, but this will go here, a little piece, and then on here, it would hook onto your belt loop. And I liked having that security. I could grab it, push the button, and then pull it out, take it, open it, put it back. And I liked that. But I just liked the fact that it would push out and lock. Do you see the lock right here? So as it goes, listen, it pulls out that piece of steel and that locks. And I'm not worried about that closing in on my fingers. And I can stick that in and everything like that. So even though it's a cheap little CH8, this was the knife that I carried all the time. And this is the knife that I most gave away to other people. Because I'd always see a guy and get to be friends with them. And I'd say, hey, how come you don't carry a knife? And they would always be like, well, here, let me give you this one. and then I'd have to go buy another one, or I'd have 3 or 4 at home. And I've recently gave one away to my daughter's friends of one of these. But I always liked that thumb push in, push back. The fact that it was so easy to open and close and open and close. Now these are hard to find nowadays. They make a, I think it's a CH7, where it's more pointed and more rounded. They make the smaller version that's only about this big. Is it the CH3 and 4? And one is pointed, the other's kind of the more rounded. But it's not much to look at. And if you're worried about losing your knife, you know, this thing's only was about 20 bucks. I don't think they even sell them anymore. That's what I liked about it, is that it didn't cost much. I wasn't afraid if I lost it that I lost a lot of money. But I liked the serrated edge. That always helped me to cut things. And I liked the one-handedness of this. So now here we go. We have all of my carry knives out here today. Let's put them in order. That's the first one I carried. Then the next one I carried was this one. Then I carried this one. For a time I gave it away till I got a new one, and I carried this one. And then for a little while there in Oklahoma, I carried this one. And these were all the knives that I like to carry. I, to this day, like to carry a knife, and I like how easy it is to close as a one-handed. And I like that one locks. This one locks. It's a one-hander. But this one has the button. This is why this is my everyday carry knife, and you can see my video on why it's my everyday. I just love that button, and I love those finger grooves. This was a pretty nice little knife as well. I forget what the name of this one was, but it is 15 4cm steel. And this one's a one-hander, but it's not as easy. It's got the button, but it's not as easy to put closed as a one-hander. And then this one, of course, this one's a lot harder to close. You flip it out easy, but you really got to get your finger in there and your fingernail to close that one. So the two easiest ones to do were this one. I mean, it's like muscle memory, because I've done this so much in my life. I carried this probably, well, in Honduras as a missionary for 7 years. I carried this knife right there. And now I carry this knife because I found it's the easiest one to close and do what I'm used to doing if I need a one-hander. So there's the knives. I just love these things, and I'm sure you probably do too. Well, what knife do you carry? Leave that in the comments. Let everybody know what's your everyday carry knife. We've got quite a representation here. Schrade, Old Timer, Schrade, Gerber, Benchmade, and this one again is Cold Steel. So there you go. These are the knives. These three are locking. Actually, that one's locking. So it's wonderful to have a locking knife. This one, of course, is not. So there they are. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope you have a carry knife, and share with us what's the carry knife that you carry every day, because we'd love to know. Knives are cool, and axes too.